With the Carolina Panthers about to start their 2025 campaign in just a few short days, I've decided I'm going to go ahead and give you all my predictions about just what our quarterback, wide receivers, and running backs are going to be able to do statistically this season. And we're going to get into all of that right after this.
I'm from the foe. You dig?
Welcome to The Way I See It with Jamario Rashad. This is a Carolina Panthers fan channel. Please do me a favor by hitting the like button, and please make sure you subscribe as I am on my road to 3K. Trying to make sure the channel continues to grow as this season plays out, hopefully towards the playoffs. Now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and get to these predictions. So of course we have to start with the man behind center, the guy that is going to be taking the snaps, the man who is going to touch the ball on every single play. And we are going to talk about Bryce Young, our QB1, BY9. I expect for him to have a floor. I'm talking about a floor of 3,500 yards passing through the air next season. That would have been good enough for 18th in the league last year, although that isn't, anything spectacular. That is a significant upgrade over what we've been able to see our quarterback do in these prior years. And I expect for us to have a dynamic running game as well if Coach Canales does stick to the stick-to-itiveness of the being stubborn about the run. If he can actually keep that or put that philosophy into practice, I believe that that may have a bit of a hindrance on Bryce Young's passing output, but I believe that it will be substantially better than last year. So I believe that he will have 25 total passing touchdowns through the air. That would have tied him for 10th in the league last season. So that does propel him into the upper echelon of quarterbacks in the league, putting him into that top third. And that's something that we would like to see in our third year guy, somebody that we may have to pay, and hopefully we do get to pay with his performance this season. And finally, I think he will only have about 8 interceptions. He had 9 last season. There were 21 quarterbacks in the league that threw more, although some of them had more opportunities, some of them played more games. You have to understand that being in the bottom third of starting caliber quarterbacks that had the opportunity to put the ball in the air as many times as a majority of these starting quarterbacks did, only having 8 interceptions through however many games is quite impressive. And I believe that that will be something that Bryce Young will be able to do. Having 9 last season, I believe that the touchdowns will improve while the interceptions decrease. And I believe that's something that Bryce Young is tailor-made to do, as he is the ultimate processor, as we were tend to call him, as the guy that he was touted to be coming out of college. Hopefully we can see that on display a little bit more this season. I think Bryce Young most certainly will do that. Now, when it comes to what he'll be able to do on the ground. Now, Bryce Young being the quarterback that everybody has questioned or did question coming into the league because of his lack of size, or however people wanted to frame it, Bryce Young is not somebody that we will ever call up a designed run for. We don't even leave him in there to do QB sneaks. But with the infusion of Tetairoa McMillan, with having Xavier Legette recovering from his surgery, looking as quick as ever, and potentially being a very effective vertical threat this season, I believe with the infusion of those wide receivers being able to actually get downfield and everything not being forced to be underneath, and forcing the OC and Dave Canales to call a bunch of underneath routes, I believe that'll open up a lot of scramble lanes for Bryce Young to get out of the pocket, scramble for first downs. And I believe by the end of the season, that will equate to or add up to at least 300 or more yards, as in his relatively shaky start so far, he's already had over 250 yards in the first 2 seasons. So I believe that 300 in a much more effective offense with a much more effective passing game, I believe that just naturally would lend for Bryce Young to have more than 300 yards, not even by design, solely off scrambles, or, Bryce just making plays happen. But that is what I expect out of QB1 Bryce Young. What do you all think? Do you think this is too high? Do you think it's too low? I honestly think, as I said, the 3,500 is the floor. We've seen the better quarterbacks and the quarterbacks that we would like Bryce Young to enter the echelon of 3,500 is just, that's an average year for them. They're doing 37 to 4,000, some even up to 4,300 to 4,500. Those are what the star guys do. So this is just a floor for what I think Bryce Young will be able to do. You tell me in the comments what exactly you think he will do. So now that we've finished talking about Bryce Young, let's get into talking about his weapons. How will that 3,500 yards be distributed? Who will it be distributed to? And who are the top pass catchers in the wide receiver room that will get the majority of that 3,500 yard share? First and foremost, we have to talk about the big dog in the room at the moment. Tetairoa McMillan was drafted with the 8th overall pick in this most previous draft, and he is going to be a rookie. And in my opinion, he will be the best rookie the Carolina Panthers have ever had. I think early, because of the impact that we have in Xavier Legette, we have a Jalen Coker, we have 2 other young guys that are not pushovers by any stretch of the imagination. I believe that there will be a bit of a mix-up for targets, as Bryce Young is known to be what people like to call a point guard on the football field, somebody that distributes the ball as necessary. It's not that I'm targeting anybody, it's that I'm getting the ball to whomever is open. So I believe that although Tetairoa McMillan will have over 1,000 yards, I believe closer to about 1,200 yards, I believe his impact will be similar to what you saw in a player like a young first and second year guy like George Pickens, what he was able to do for the Pittsburgh Steelers, being a big play guy, somebody that had nearly 1,200 yards on just 63 catches, which is absolutely outrageous as a second year player. I expect for Tetairoa to have many more catches, as I believe he'll be targeted a lot more than that. But that is just a comparison of a player that I believe can be a big play guy. And with having other effective receivers, George Pickens had to play alongside Deontay Johnson, who was getting over 120 targets still before he fell off the map and came here. And you know how that story went. Having Jalen Coker and having Xavier Legette being other wide receivers that could potentially absorb some of these targets, I believe that Tetairoa McMillan, despite all of that, will still be incredibly effective, and I believe that he'll be heavily targeted, especially in the red zone. 10 yards are in, those fade balls are coming, because we still have Xavier Legette that serves as a similar threat, somebody that can go up and get it as a big receiver, as a physical target. I believe that Tetairoa McMillan will get a lot of those opportunities one-on-one for those back shoulder fade balls, and if we will see him used, as everybody continues to compare him to, because we have our coach Dave Canales, and we saw what he was able to do with that guy being Mike Evans. If Tet is going to be used like Mike Evans, we can see him easily getting at least 10 touchdowns, most of those being from 10 yards or in. Will he break for a long catch and run to a touchdown? Of course, that'll happen eventually, but I believe the focal point of his scores will come when we are at a short down and distance to the end zone, and I believe that is just how my guy will be used, more of a big play guy than a possession guy, and that is absolutely okay with me. 1,100 yards, 10 touchdowns for Tetairoa McMillan. Book it. That is my prediction. Now, this second player, I feel like these numbers may disappoint some people, while other people may understand and feel encouraged if Xavier Legette was able to actually put forth these statistical numbers this season. So that being 650 yards receiving. I know a lot of people would like to see this move closer, an inch closer to that 1,000 yard in a season mark, but just because he's a first round pick does not mean that you can automatically assign just the same output or the same, expectations to guys just because of where they were drafted. Excel has shown, and especially in the preseason and what we've seen coming out of camp and what we've seen so far, that with the surgery already being over, him being fully recovered, he says that he is back to 100%, that the hand or the wrist injury is not the reason why he did not have the rookie season that he wanted to. It's because he was not moving the way that he wanted to because of the issue with his foot, I believe. So now that that's out of the way, we've seen just how shifty shifty he's been. We've seen just how quick he could be and just how effective he can be when he has the ball in his hand. So what I expect out of him is a bunch of yak. And what comes with a guy that's good at yak is a guy that could also be included as the main gadget guy within an offense. And I think that will be Xavier Legette's role. I know a lot of people think that that will be why we drafted Jimmy Horn, but I believe that may be where Jimmy Horn's role is a year or two down the road. As of right now, I believe that Xavier Legette would be the guy that is selected to be used if Dave Canales did choose to go in his bag of tricks and pull out some trick plays, some gadget plays. I believe that Xavier Legette will be the one getting the jet sweeps, will be the ones on the double reverses, the ones on the quick screens. I believe he will be the recipient of that because he is the one that is most dangerous and has the most potential to take it to the house after that. So although he'll only have about 650 receiving yards, I believe we can expect over 100, closer to 150 rush yards by way of gadget plays, reverses, things of that nature, to put his all-purpose yards closer up to that 800 yards in his second season mark. And I believe that's a lot more acceptable than if you were to just look at, okay, he's having less than 700 receiving yards as a late first round pick in his second season. I believe looking at 800 all purpose, that's a lot more encouraging. And I believe that's what we can actually get out of Xavier Legette. Now, finally, this guy is somebody who I believe is actually going to be the number 2 wide receiver in this offense. And in my opinion, probably going to be Bryce's favorite target. I don't want to call it a safety blanket because I believe that is something that, pretty much just pacifies a quarterback to a certain extent. And I don't believe that Bryce in his third year needs somebody that he can just I believe the term should be more so of a go-to guy, somebody that you feel comfortable with, somebody that you truly believe that you can depend on. And Jalen Coker sliding into that starting slot position, being a power slot, being and absorbing all of the targets that would have been Adam Thielen's this season. I believe that he's somebody that is going to be able to put up at least 800 yards receiving, 8 or more touchdowns. But where he's going to be most effective is where I compared, or where I said T-Mac is going to be the guy that is the big play receiver. I believe Jalen Coker is going to be the dynamic possession receiver that gobbles up a lot of targets each and every game because of his ability to get open, because of his ability to catch within a phone booth, because of his ability to just run routes and get underneath and just make sure he moves the sticks and gets and moves the chains and gets us the first down and gets us 3 more opportunities to run our offense. I believe he will be the key player in doing all of that, and I believe he will do that to the tune of, as I said, 800 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 50 or more first downs. So that is my expectation for our starting 3 wide receivers. What do you all think these 3 guys will be able to do? T-Mac, XL, Coker. I'm expecting big things out of all of them. I am not somebody that is down on Xavier Legette. I am just somebody who has shifted my expectations of what I want from him. And trust me, that will change your perspective a lot. So now, the final group that we are going to discuss, of course, is the running backs, headed by none other than our 1,000-yard rusher last season, Chuba Hubbard, and Rico Dowdle, newly acquired running back from the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I believe Chuba Hubbard would have yet another 1,000-yard season. I don't believe he'll eclipse 1,100 total, but over the last 2 seasons, he has had exactly, or over the last 2 seasons, he's had over 1,000 all-purpose yards, and I believe that he'll be able to do that exact same thing this season, while not having as many rushing yards this season because he has a more capable backup than previous years. I do believe that he will do that to the tune of at least close to 1,050, 1,075 yards, somewhere in there. And if this offensive line is just as effective as we saw them be throughout last year, or they could hopefully progress to be even more effective we could see these numbers soar past this, and this could potentially be a floor for Chuba Hubbard, who was an actual force and the best player on our offense last season. I believe that these are just the floor numbers, and we could see these be a lot higher. But I do believe that his catches and his overall receiving yards will dip, not because of any decline or anything due to Chuba's output. I believe that will just be because those opportunities will be absorbed by Rico Dowdle, who is just more of a pass-catching guy. So moving forward to Rico Dowdle, I don't believe that he will be a 1,000-yard guy like he was last season for the Dallas Cowboys, because I don't believe those opportunities will be there. But I believe that he could get close to 1,000 yards, probably right under that 1,000-yard all-purpose mark, because he will be the primary third down back, a running back, or the primary pass-catching running back to be able to pick up third downs, to be able to just get the check downs whenever our quarterback needs to get the ball out of his hands quickly. And we've already seen how effective he can be catching the ball on that highlight play he had, catching a pass 15, 20 yards down the field from Andy Dalton. Rico Dowdle will undoubtedly be an upgrade for this team, but the most important thing and the most impactful thing on 1,000% that he brings is that he's just simply not Miles Sanders. That's an upgrade however you look at it, however you want to slice it. Not being Miles Sanders is just simply an upgrade, and I believe Rico Dowdle is going to be 3 times the player that we got out of an overpriced Miles Sanders over the last 3 seasons. So 925 all-purpose yards and 5 touchdowns for Rico Dowdle. But those are my predictions for our Carolina Panthers offense. I know I didn't talk about the tight ends, but I need to see a little bit more out of JT Sanders this season before I throw my hat in the ring to say that he's going to be super dynamic. I need to see what he's able to do. But what do you all think about Bryce Young, the wide receivers, the running backs? Are my statistical expectations a little too high? Are they a little too low? Are you upset about any player in particular? You all let me know whatever you think down in the comment section, and I'll be sure to get back to you then. But until next time, I am Jamario Rashad. This is the way I see it, and I'm out. Peace.